Hi, coming at you from my mother's hoarded apartment because I am as mentally stable as a roasted chicken. I wanted to do a lyric walkthrough of my new single, The Source. I thought that'd be fun. A friend of mine had, 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 see? Roast chicken. A friend of mine had asked me to play at her birthday, which was great. I had a great time there. It was a wonderful birthday. I had asked her if there was any cover songs she might want me to learn or something that she thought would be really fun to hear. And she sent me like a list of 4 options, which I loved. She's like, pick one of these, or all of them, or whatever you can do. And I listened to all of them, and one of them was really familiar to me, and that was the one I ended up going with. And then one of them was like really good and like super in my area, but there was something off about it. And I was like, there's something in the mix. It's like, that's not quite right. And I thought, oh no, is it AI? I looked into the song, I found the YouTube channel, and lo and behold, this was like a one-off-the-cuff, random AI song, like out of genre for the usual AI stuff that this person generates. The person claimed to write the lyrics themselves, but on that song in and of itself, it was just very AI lyrical. AI tends to, in song lyrics, tends to have very general, like, here's a vibe line, like here's an imagery or something that kind of sounds the same, and then it rhymes with what it needs to rhyme within the scheme. So I don't think they wrote the lyrics for that one. It was just very worded like it was AI as well. And when you find a song that is the robot throwing a billion darts at the board, eventually you're going to get a bullseye, and you like feel emotionally connected to that song, and then you go digging into it, and you find out it was just, quite literally randomly generated based on user output. Did you like this or not? What needs to change? It hurts. I think it hurts anyone who really enjoys art. It hurt me. I was very deeply hurt. I was like, this was really cool, and that thing that wasn't quite right about it was the missing humanity of the song. And it kind of got me just thinking about it in general. I know it's on every artist's mind right now in the world at large. AI is really affecting us in negative ways more than positive ways. We know it's hurting our brains, it's hurting our creativity, it's hurting our economy. It's created an economic bubble that will soon burst because no one wants to buy the tools that they're selling with it. Yeah, it's a rough time. I really appreciate the tool in and of itself, and it is going to be useful forever, and it's hurting our planet. It sucks. It sucks all around. This is not worth the cost. It truly is not. And I wanted to like distill that feeling while making a song that was kind of like the song that the AI generated. It was originally, the AI song was very chanty, sea shanty-like. And I don't think that's where the source went. I just kind of took the chord progression and did my own thing with it. So I start the song out in its structure with the chorus. I often do that. The first thing I come up with, I just like, okay, that's the chorus. Especially if it's catchy. So I wrote, it's the source, not just the water. And then I went looking for ways that I could compare art and creation to the way water flows. I am also one of those musicians and artists that feels like art is a spiritual experience, or writing song is a spiritual experience where it's just kind of in the ether and it's flowing through me, but it's not all about me. So it's the source, not just the water. And I thought about, where they're running from, like where the artist is running from, or what they're running from, which is very common in music. That we're scared of things. Communication is a real key point in becoming a musician, that you reach out for poetry and music because there's something you don't have the skills or the safe space to communicate through normal means. It's the source, not just the water. It's where they're running from. And the first time they saw her kind of playing on a trope, I just know a lot of dude musicians, or in fact I know a lot of LGBTQ plus musicians, who would just be attracted to a her. And it rhymes. So there's that. And, we're always telling love stories about this thing that didn't work out, and setting romantic expectations on limerence, which is a very difficult thing to struggle with, which is incredibly common and so prevalent in our art in every way. And then I was struggling to where the chorus was going to go with that, and said, what has been brings what's to come. These two and always have been one. As in, to me, that feels like in some ways we are locked in. I think humanity will always value the human artist over the generated art facsimile. Excuse me. What has been brings what's to come. I don't even know if that's what made it in the final lyric. It's just what I wrote down at first. These two and always have been one. And that was another wordplay. In always, like in all space ways, and always. You know what I mean? One thing leads to another, which leads to another, which leads to another. And I think we'll see, like, by the numbers success in AI art, basically because people don't know. But we'll never see AI generated Hatsune Miku. That's an artist who's generating the art under the skies. They're not throwing it into a AI simulation. They're creating the image that is Hatsune Miku and that kind of thing. There is a human team behind that. So we go into the first chorus, or the first verse. I'm one of many souls, been walking down this broken road. They say, son, do not go, but if you do, stay sensible. This is about the journey of, like, the musician, where it's this princes of paupers kind of things, where you have to. There are dues to pay. I got a whole other video on dues. To the elite, to the people with opportunity, to the people with money to back you and give you security and safety for your creation. You have to just try. It seems very directionlessness. It seems like there's not one way to get it done. That's something that irks me very deeply with the music career path, where there's infinite numbers of ways to do it, but really, if you look into it, there's the people you think of as successful, even in the last 5 years, have all walked the same road, which was start out directionless, get an audience built or a buzz in some form or fashion, and then be bought into the industry, get resources from the industry. People who have to give those resources out of generosity, out of general faith, out of absolutely believing in their art and the artist, whether it was for an amount of money from what they might generate in sales, or like not a business decision, not a business loan, generally just a gift of, here's a tour bus, here's this, I have this lying around. So built through either genuine connection or, genuine business connection. And it's pretty difficult and societally advised against to go do this, because it's not guaranteed. No matter how great you are, even if you put in the work for 10 years, you might get there and you might not. I have had so many mental barriers to creating the things that support the art. This is one of those things that support the art, but the art itself cannot support itself. Oddly, there are very few anymore models of the art itself supporting itself. And that's frustrating, because there is no one person who built this structure where the art itself cannot support itself. And our society has crowdsourced giving more artists freedom by asking them to create something else that could be considered art, these videos, to support their artistic creation. But that's a real struggle. I'll get to it in the next part. So the first verse we walked through, I'm one of many souls walking down this broken road. They say, son, do not go, but if you do, stay sensible. Keep your head about you, treat it like business, all these things that if you're like into or understand manifestation or things that teach about those kind of things, it's kind of the opposite of what you do, and some people swear by it. Some people, very, very, very successful people, will stand there and say, I did exactly this manifestation practice, and that is how exactly that I got here. And that is the only way I think anyone ever really does it. Continue on here. It says, the trouble that I find is that my sense will not abide. These dues to pay, demands made from those who have for me to play. The trouble that I find is that my sense will not abide. These dues to pay, demands made from those who have for me to play. Yeah, I think it's very unsensible. There is a podcast called The Manager's Playbook, which I have unsubscribed from, because these music managers, there is a modern music manager who's been kind of getting into what's left of the music industry, and I really love these kind of, behind the wall with Daniel Wall, and these podcasts that are really going back to my childhood and before, and looking at the stories of the songs and the business decisions, not Daniel, but The Manager's Playbook, the business decisions that made, the late 90s, the early 2000s, the teens, and built these huge monoculture acts that are still prevalent today, because those are the last remnants of the monoculture that we have. While watching or listening to The Manager's Playbook and seeing these businessmen with business degrees who got a job at a business to do business that happened to be selling and marketing art, audio art, and live performance art, seeing them speak about how they make their decisions to work with anyone these days or back then, seeing them speak on their beliefs that got them to where they are, which is incredibly wealthy, more wealthy than their children could spend in their lifetimes. Some of them seem incredibly out of touch. And by that I mean they're just deeply out of touch with, and this is coming from the guy who just mentioned manifestation, out of touch with reality, out of touch with how it may seem to say the things that they say. One in particular spoke that he was recently opening a new, management production label-esque company, that he would not work with any artist who said they had a backup plan. He would ask them, do you have a backup plan? What is your backup plan? And if they said yes, that was a deal breaker for him. He said, I'm not going to sign you. I'm not going to work with you. You can't be choosing safety. You can't be choosing saying something else might work out. And from their perspective, they want someone who's very driven, who might be willing to do what they feel it takes to market their music. And from my perspective, I see a very wealthy man gatekeeping those resources because he needs someone who is desperate so they can manipulate, which is how we get into situations where you get desperate young men and women who are sexually assaulted or abused in these relationships. And then you have the whole Kesha situation. So that's just a huge red flag to me. And there are other people who have said similar things on that podcast with that manager there. And that boils my blood, grinds my roasted chicken gears. That someone with those resources, with that help, would gatekeep those resources for an art they might believe in, simply because the other person seems to have a lick of sense about them. And that's wild. That's infuriating. And it screams of greed and manipulation. So I personally couldn't work with that person. I don't have a backup plan. I've burnt through all my backup plans, and this isn't working. This is my backup plan. Welcome to the backup plan, I guess. And I would not work with that person. That's terrible. Why? That would be a stupid decision to go with that guy, because he's like, oh, backup plan. He's just looking for someone that's vulnerable, so he can get as much money as possible out of that person. And I can go into that for hours. We knew people in Hollywood and people in power prey on those who are weak because they're looking for ways to bet on and generate more money for themselves because enough is never enough. Yada, 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 yada. We go into the chorus again. And in the next verse, along came a magic man with all his numbers in a can, saying, "Tell me what makes you a fan, and I'll give you more than you can stand." So this is that situation where venture capitalist tech bros come up with the idea, we can generate as much music as we want. They come to these people in power who have these resources and say, forget the wishy-washy artists you need to exploit, the artists that you need to not have a backup plan, the artists that you need to be desperate. They're hard to work with anyway. Just tell me what makes you a fan, tell me what's working in the numbers, and I can generate as much or as little of it as you need. And then he continues in the next part of this verse, "Who are your heroes? I've got ones and zeros to make you believe in modern miracles. Don't need to try, won't ever die, don't need to say any last goodbye." I think this is more to the artist from me. We see people on even YouTube here, like There I Ruined It, which is very funny, where he uses his voice and does his best to sing. I think it's a he. I don't know the pronouns. Uses their voice to sing as like that person as they can, and then they pitch up, and then they run it through a algorithm to change the voice into some of our heroes to make them say and sing silly songs, which is very funny and good-natured. But we just lost people we've lost in this situation. We could ask an AI, generate Ozzy Osbourne singing 13 unreleased, never heard before Black Sabbath songs, and it will just do that. It will write what it thinks is another Black Sabbath song. It will use audio waveforms to produce another Black Sabbath song to make it sound like Black Sabbath. And if the wrong people hear it, people think that's something that happened. They think it's, and then the people who own the rights to Black Sabbath can just farm us for money, farm for listens, and take Daniel X. War money away from them. We go into the chorus again after "Don't need to say any last goodbye." I used this section just to we changed the rhythm in the next part, and I just used that as a bridge or a middle eight, where the narrator comes back into the song and says, "Can't say I'm surprised, I'm pretty used to the lies from men who sell humanity's demise." That's pretty self-evident. I don't know if I need to explain that at all. And then I came up with, "It's just a tool. Don't you think it's cool? We stole everything you love and now we'll sell it back." Those first two lies, you can see those in our government, in our history. I think you can say those about nuclear warheads and other implements of war that people have made. So like drone attacks, and say, "Oh, it's so cool. It's a remote drone. It's just a tool. We're not going to use it. We're just mutually assuring destruction so the world has peace." Peace. Proxy wars. In the case of generative and large language models, they stole all of the intellectual property of every song ever made, popular and unpopular, to train the models. They did not pay publishing rights to develop this sellable tool that they are selling. The argument that comes to my mind is that you could say that the large language learning model is just like any artist who is learning how to write and produce songs. They hear, they interpret, they try and reproduce, they try and match. So many of our favorite songs have come out of trying to sound like another. And the heart of this song came out of taking something from another song that I liked but disapproved of and flipping it on its head. Where I think the key difference is these artists are not multi-billion-dollar corporations. These artists are not taking billions in venture capital dollars and trying to make money on those venture capital dollars. These artists are not building data centers that are ruining our electricity and water grids in certain, what's the word I'm looking for, low property value areas of the country, like outside of Memphis, Tennessee. There are not huge machines. They are independent artists that might find some success and some creativity, who are humans engaging with a human act of learning, and we will not be ever as productive as an AI that is constantly being asked to produce songs and can produce 20,000 songs a day and then flood Spotify with them and steal royalties. You know, that's one Spotify just subscription sold, whereas for every artist, that's another $15 for Daniel X War Machine. War investments. And we close with the chorus again. It's the source, not just the water. It's where they're running from and the first time that they saw her. What has been brings what's to come. These two in always have been one. Art is made more powerful by who it comes from, by the stories behind it. That's why every talent show sells the greatest sob story, you know? It's not just the talent, it's what is this person's story? We're addicted to stories. And taking the story out of the art feels like it takes the art out of the art. If you haven't heard my song, why? Why did you not listen to my song? Go listen to the song. And my channel's not big enough for me to link the topic to my actual channel yet, so you just type in the source, James Falls, and you'll see the cover art. I'm wearing the hat. There's a stream. There's some code. It's a whole thing. The production is not perfect. I am not a fantastic producer at the moment, and I hope I never am, honestly, because I'm supposed to be doing a lot of other things other than just being a producer. May my producing always suffer. May I be forever not content. May I struggle with it forever. Because that way I can learn something new, and also I can ask someone better to help. Someone who is really good with production can serve the music a little better. I don't know how. Hopefully it will take me less than a year to put out another single. Hopefully I keep making more content for you right now based around this single release. Things in my personal life are tough. I have sold or given away or thrown away almost everything I own. And I am, again, in here in my mother's hoarded apartment. I've gotten rid of most of my music production tools. In the situation, I was in another wreck. I think I said that before. I did a short or something. I was in another wreck in April. And that ruined my job. Hurt my wrist, which is still not 100% yet. I don't know if I'll ever get back to there, but I'm training my wrist the best I can. Or no. Training my wrist when the mood strikes me, which is not good. So I don't know what the future holds or how long it's going to be, or if I just get a job in a factory and die in obscurity. But I wanted to make this video for you now to say, you know, still out here, I'm still writing all the time. I can write a song so much quicker than I can get it out to you. I can sit here and create and have the fun that is the making the music and lean into the joy of making the music so much faster than I can get it recorded, so much faster than I can find the space to record it in. You know, I had hoped that coming out of this wreck and a settlement from the insurance company, that I could get a car that I could live in, and maybe a cheap laptop I could start recording on, and then maybe just set about trying to book shows in places to get my name out there, because that still works. That still works. You can still go places and meet people, and I've got most of my subscribers on YouTube from literally being in person going, I have a YouTube channel. Do you like watching YouTube? You should subscribe to my channel. That's where I put out new music. And to all you who met me that way, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for coming back. I'm glad you're watching this. If you haven't heard the new single, please go listen and tell me what you think down in the comments. If there's anything that pissed you off in the video or you think I'm an idiot, let me know down in the comments. I read every one of them, of course. I'll try and respond to as many as I can. As in, if there's like one comment, I'm gonna respond to it. What up? Tell my friends and family I'm figuring it out. Crazy, guys. I'm just absolutely batshit insane. So I'm just still working on that. Still working on that and what that means. Thank you so much for watching this. Like and subscribe. I'll get something out to you soon. Enough. When I can. I should be consistent. I love you. Bye.